Hello, guys, and welcome back to this new episode. Today, we are going to discuss the Rashomon Effect and the story of Paul Ingram. Therefore, don't leave us, don't abandon us, not right now, I beg you, and stay here and let's start. The Rashomon Effect takes its name from a film made by the Japanese director Kurosawa, and Kurosawa reused two stories written by Akutokawa, and the stories were two, but actually the point of reference was only one story, and this story was called In a Grove. And so he merged those two stories, keeping the plot of In a Grove as the main one. The story is a story of an homicide. It's the story of a samurai who's found dead in a quiet bamboo grove. And the Rashomon Effect is the description of what? The description of the crime, not as it has really happened, but how the witnesses recount the version. And the witnesses give a very plausible yet different version of the same story. So each of the four eyewitnesses recount their story, and each of them also is himself accountable somewhat for what has happened. So they ascribe to themselves some legal responsibility, but none of them the full responsibility of the homicide of the samurai in question. And this goes down in history as the Rashomon Effect, meaning that of the memory that recounts only a partial version of what actually has happened. In short, this is only the story of how eyewitnesses are actually unreliable. But in longer, more complicated terms, this is a reflection on how memory works. We do know from the episode on amnesia and the stories, the first actually story that we have recounted, that of Henry Mollison, whose brain has been dissected. We know a couple of things on memory. For instance, that memory is stored in different parts of the brain, and that the removal of certain parts of the brain, specifically amygdala, can actually affect deeply memory and how we and what we remember as well. But we are also perfectly aware that there are situations, for instance, when there is a sleep deprivation type of situation, or when stress is highly involved, or when the mood is severely depressed, where the memory is completely altered. And now the way we alter memory is very interesting, because basically our mind is built, in the words of Antonio Damasio, who is one of the greatest contemporary neuroscientists, that more or one of the ones that understands better mind and how that works. There are the structure of our mind, that we were saying, is built. It's an infrastructure that is that aims fundamentally to cover facts rather than discovering them. And this is important because all of this is so crucial when we have traumatic events. When we witness, or when we are the object of traumatic events, then what we realize is that our memory is never faithful to what we have witnessed or what we have endured, and is always scattered and stored in places where what we notice, one of the first things that we notice here is that is always coming back to us in flashes, right? And even the work to recover that kind of memory is extremely hard and difficult. So in this story, what we have is, and what we have to highlight, is a very high element of subjectivity. a very heightened subjectivity. In order to understand this concept, it is sufficient to think for a second about how we interpret phenomena, how we interpret events when we are kids. When we are kids, we see the behavior and then we implicitly connotate that behavior in a certain way. For instance, that of our mother or that of our father, right? Or other close relatives to whom we are exposed. And then somebody replying really badly, to you as a child is taken as, your mother, your father reprimanding you. But when we are adults, so with the integration of rationality, we are also able to understand something else, right? That maybe they are frustrated, or maybe simply they are projecting onto you something that belongs to them, and we are much more able to detach. And that does not happen for a child, right? Because the child doesn't have the tools to realize that. And what we mean by the story is simply the following: that according to personality and then subjectivity, a certain behavior can be interpreted in a certain way, right? And that depends exactly on subjectivity. We said also nature, as in personality of the child, but mostly subjectivity. Now, that is to say also that when we right now remember things, right, and things that have happened a long time ago, for example, we would tend to proceed this exactly in the same fashion, meaning our subjectivity can interfere with our memory, being that our memory is a constant process of reconstruction and rebuilding of our memories, and those memories are reinterpreted in light of predominant feelings, either of the moment or bunch of memories that get lumped together, and so on and so forth, right? And so higher subjectivity or heightened subjectivity can lead to disastrous situations.
Now, a typical example of this would be the Thompson case. A woman was raped, and then she identified this man with certain features. She gave a description of this man, and this man appeared to be a famous psychologist, Thompson. So, police knocked at his door, and of course, accused Thompson of rape. What then emerged is that actually the woman didn't fabricate the whole thing. The woman was actually raped, but her memory worked in a way that the face of Thompson that she had seen previously on TV merged completely and became the face of the man who raped her. To make a concrete example of what we're saying right now, for instance, it is sufficient to think the researchers that were carried out by Loftus, and that research shows that if we introduce simply in a question about a car crash, for instance, the word crash or the word smash, then people will start remembering pieces of broken glass on the scene of the accident, right? And that is an important understanding of how memory works. And so again, memories can be redistributed, can be ascribed to different episodes, right? Can be dislocated in that sense multiple times, and can construct a totally different memory of the real accident. And so, in that sense, we have always to be suspicious about basically when somebody of those situations when somebody remembers things in a perfect way, episodes that may have happened, a while ago, and they are full of details. We have to be suspicious of those kind of situations, specifically because we will think, given what we have said so far, that that person or those people are actually lying, right? Nobody remembers with, a great deal of details episodes that have happened, especially when they have happened a long time ago. So now we move on and we talk about another story which is connected with whatever we are saying right now about memory and about how memory works. And we are going to talk about the story of Paul Ingram. So, in this beautiful book titled Neuroethics, what we have here is the story, the infamous story of Paul Ingram. He was a vice sheriff and he was accused of having raped his own daughters by a member of the church that was a family friend of Paul Ingram. And this guy had the theory that he could make prophecies thanks to a divine God, and in one of those prophecies had been revealed to him that Paul Ingram had raped his own daughters.
So initially, Ingram denies, says he cannot remember any of that, but then at that point the details of the stories of the daughters became more and more extravagant, and so they were talking about having kids and kids being killed in a satanic ritual that was attended by other members of the community. And only at that point Ingram says, yes, actually that happened, now I remember, yes, that is true.
Moral of the story is that Ingram spent 14 years in prison, and even the appeal did not have that much of an effect, because Afshe was propelling the thesis that Ingram was or had proven that Ingram was highly subjected to suggestibility, but again, it's hard to rehabilitate a reputation that has been ruined just like that. The way Afshe proved that actually Ingram was fabricating his own memories was very simple. He simply reported to Ingram that his own son had said that he was forced to have sex with the daughter, and so to commit incest. And initially Ingram again denied, but then after a night of sleep and meditation, he said that actually that was true and came up with a bunch of memories. The point here is that the son of Ingram had never said something even similar to that, right? And so that has to push us towards a deep, profound reflection on how memory works. So for this episode, which is, by the way, a true story, for this episode, this is it, right? But I want to understand how many of you had a prior knowledge about this. I would love for you to comment down here below. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about this. We'll talk next time with a different episode. Don't forget to subscribe, to click the link, to click the like button here, and to subscribe to the channel. So we'll talk some more next time with a new episode, and I thank you for your patience. Bye!